This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow with your boys here. My name is Truck, and I'm joined, as always, by the infamous Shane O'Mac. And today we are talking wide receiver rankings. We're diving deep. We got our top 60 wide receivers here. We're going to be talking about ADP, where they finished last year and where we project them to be this year. We got our tiers ranked out here, as you can see. I'm really excited, Shane, to talk about some wide receivers. But before we do that, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on socials, and make sure you follow the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. Shane writes some great articles for the show. Make sure you get that there. Shane, welcome in.
Hey, how is it going? We said last time, like, running backs are one of our favorite episodes. I feel like, though, like wide receivers, like there's just, it's so good and deep, and just you have such a bigger chunk of great players.
A bigger pool, right?
Yeah.
We got it's so good and deep, and how you're talking, it's a good pool. We have, there's just a lot of players we're going to be talking about. I love the running back episode. I mentioned how much I love talking about running backs, that position group. Wide receivers, when talking about rankings, there's so much discrepancy, right? We're going to be talking about a lot of discrepancies we have as we go down this list. Some of them are pretty shocking, as I could say, as I was going through this ranking here. But I don't feel as confident with this ranking system as I do the running backs. It's not very cut and dry with wide receivers. So obviously you have your top 12 and top, 20 of the, in one way, shape, or form. They're all kind of in different spots, but we'll get right into it, Shane. I mean, wide receivers, where are you looking at here? Because I mean, Jamar Chase is the wide receiver one, right? And to preface, we're talking PPR rankings. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is all based on PPR standard. PPR is standard, but Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, the top three, we are identical in not only the top three, but
look at that, folks.
the top seven.
Look
right?
at that.
We are in line.
Jamar and we don't see each other's rankings until right when we come on, folks. Like, yeah, this is just
Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson in a tier of their own. I think we can all agree on that. Puka Nacua pretty close behind that tier. I'm almost considering putting him in that tier after what he's shown us the first two seasons. But Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra, Nico, and then Drake and Brian Thomas for me, but AJ Brown and Drake for you. What do you see here in this top group? I mean, I don't think there's a bad pick here, right? I mean, you're talking apples to oranges, but if you're grabbing a wide receiver in the first round, I am thrilled to have any one of these guys on my team.
Yeah, I think, when you're looking at in the like 12-man leads, like I think you'll see those top three go in the first round for sure. I think in some leagues you're going to see even Puka and Neighbors creep at the end of round one in some leagues. I wouldn't be surprised. I think I was honestly surprised when we unveiled our rankings to each other, because most rankings and consensus, I haven't seen CeeDee Lamb over Jefferson, and we both have Lamb over Jefferson. So that was a little surprising to me that we both had that.
I completely agree with you. I'll let you talk, since you're the resident Cowboy fan, about why you have CD over JJ, and if I have any other thoughts, I'll chime in afterwards. But what's your reasoning there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's two things. One, and I think just on the JJ side, it is just the little bit of the uncertainty of J.J. McCarthy now at quarterback. We could have said the same thing last year, maybe if you didn't think, oh, there's uncertainty. You have Sam Darnold. And so if people think McCarthy is going to be as good as Darnold, then I get it. But that's one component, just a little bit of uncertainty. But
Darnold was very, very good.
He was very good.
I mean, at the beginning of that season, it shocked everybody. But go ahead. I don't mean to interject.
No, but I think more for me, it's like, okay, you look at what CeeDee Lamb did. Like, he played 8 games without Dak. He dealt with like a shoulder injury for a good portion of the second half of this season. So he was not at 100%. Not a lot of people, factored in, like he was really toughing it out at the end. But, when he did play with Dak, I think he was at like 19 fantasy points per game. And for me, the addition of George Pickens is a positive. Like, going into this year, had they not added Pickens, I would have had Jefferson over that because I would have been very worried about double coverage, bracketed coverage. I think with Pickens there, you get a little bit of the light version of Chase and T. Higgins, where Higgins helps take off some of that pressure for Jamar Chase. And I think we're going to see a little bit lesser version of that with Pickens, with CeeDee Lamb. It's the best receiver he's had since Amari Cooper was there across from him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and honestly, I think I still would have had CD there, even if Pickens wasn't there, just because we've seen CeeDee Lamb have the double coverage, right? We've seen him do it, and he is so talented that he can beat that. He can overcome all of those coverages. But CeeDee Lamb, to me, like I said, we've seen it with Dak Prescott. This guy is, he's a world beater, right? Justin Jefferson, JJ McCarthy, we don't know what's going to happen there, right? I mean, Justin Jefferson is arguably one of the most talented receivers in the league. So to say that he can't get it done isn't really the right thing to do. But I'm not ready to take him over CeeDee Lamb, who's someone that's tried and true. And that's kind of my reason there.
Yeah. I think the other guy, I wouldn't be surprised in some drafts if you start seeing him, and he's had quite a jump in the last 18 months, but I would not be surprised in some drafts at the pick 112. You see some people take the plunge on Nico Collins too. When you look at what he's done the last 2 years, he's averaged, I think it was 18 fantasy points over the last 2 years. Now this year there is, you've got Diggs gone, you've got Tank Dell gone. So now you're looking at probably his highest target volume he's ever going to have of his career this year. It's basically him and Christian Kirk and then a couple of rookies.
Yeah, I would be willing to take him at that turn, right?
Yeah.
At the 12 spot in the first round. Nico Collins has every chance to finish as wide receiver 1 this year. What we saw him do last year was I wasn't expecting it, that's for sure. So I think he's in line for a massive target share, and I'm willing to put him over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think I could make that jump because I think Jameson Williams is coming. We'll talk about him later, but I think he takes another big step this year, and I think Nico could outperform Amon-Ra. Yeah. What about Drake London? I see a lot of people talking about Drake London. A lot of people are high on him. He's another one that could finish as wide receiver 1. Really, all of these guys down to probably AJ Brown. Would you say anybody below AJ Brown that could finish as wide receiver 1? Devontae Adams.
You might, maybe add it, but I think the only other guy that could finish, and we can talk about him later and get back to Drake. But if T. Higgins plays every single game, I think there could be a strong possibility you could have 2 Bengals being in top 5 fantasy wide receivers.
Absolutely. I mean, Higgins was a wide receiver 6 on a points per game basis.
So I think you would have, and he missed, parts of games and some games, but
when he plays, scored 18 and a half points on the points per game. I mean, that's where they were last year. So if he's healthy, he's on the field. That's why, we'll talk about him, but I mean, I have him at 12, you have him at 13. I have notoriously been off on the T. Higgins train, right? Prior to last year and in years past, I'm always the one that has him ranked the lowest out of me, you, and Coles when he was on the show. I am all in on T. Higgins this year. That defense is terrible. They're going to need to be throwing the ball as much as they do, and we saw Higgins last year. I'm a believer, okay, and I'm in on T. Higgins this year. I'm willing to draft him in the second round, even as my wide receiver 1. I'd be fine taking him, which in years past, like I said, I would not be willing to take Higgins as a wide receiver 1. I'd rather go Devontae Adams or a Mike Evans, someone that has that upside, so to speak, with on the team target share. But yeah, back to Drake London. I mean, are you all in on Drake this year? I see you have him at 9, right at the tier break. We're kind of in line here. I mean, you can't really put him too much higher. I feel like last year was kind of a dud, but he still ended up playing really good ball. Where did he finish? Wide receiver 14 on a points per game basis, but Kirk Cousins had a lot of struggles. You got Michael Penix coming in, ready to take the team over. Are you a believer in Penix and London this year to potentially make that connection a really strong one?
Yeah, I am, and I hate it that probably everybody else is going to be so high on him. Like, I think he's going to be a lock that's going to go in the first 6 picks of a round 2, because everyone's good.
Drake London.
Yeah, I think he's going like middle part of round 2 and a lot
Oh,
of
I
drafts.
think we'll check ADP right now, since we haven't mentioned it yet. But yeah, Drake London is the beginning of round 2.
Yeah, beginning of round
He's
2.
like
Yeah.
right at the turn with Brian
Yeah.
Thomas. So
I just think everyone's going to look at those final 3 games with Penix and where I think it was something like 40 targets and like 350, 400 receiving yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like, I had seen something also in those 3 games, like they really put him in the slot more as opposed to out wide. And so, obviously in our standard PPR leagues, any receiver you get in the slot, that's just a nice little bonus for PPR leagues as far as catches. You're going to see catches go up. I just think, that Kirk Cousins was not 100% for a lot of last year on that knee injury. So I just think this offense is going to be great, much better than they were last year, probably in a lot of games where they're having to throw the ball. So he's going to be a highly targeted guy.
Their defense did get better. Like the Falcons defense, I'm looking to see a big improvement from this year. But I mean, Drake London, week 17 and week 18, 13 targets and 18 targets.
Yeah.
He finished the final week 18, 10 catches, 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you're going to have that as a ceiling with Drake London, like, you know what I mean? I'd be fine someone taking him over Nico Collins or Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's in this range where if you want to take him in the first round, I wouldn't scoff at that, know? So interesting nonetheless. AJ Brown and Ladd McConkey. I had trouble with this spot right here. Like, initially I want to put AJ Brown ahead of Ladd McConkey, but there's something about Ladd, and I don't know if you can speak on it, but there's something about what I've seen from this guy last year, the consistency. I mean, who else is in this wide receiver room, right? You got the rookie Trey Harris. Yeah. You got Quentin Johnston, who, say what you want about Quentin Johnston, but he had a lot of, pretty good games last year where he actually caught the ball, surprisingly. But I like what I saw from Ladd McConkey, man. I'd be thrilled with him in the second round if I started with a running back, or even as my wide receiver 2, if I'm going wide receiver there.
Yeah, and I was just trying to look. I mean, I was going to guess. I was trying to verify, but I think maybe that Ladd even finished higher last year in PPR leagues than AJ Brown.
Ladd McConkey ended up with 240 points. AJ Brown ended up with 216.
Okay, yeah.
On a points per game basis, though, AJ Brown was better. So AJ Brown, wide receiver 12 on a per game basis, Ladd at wide receiver 19. So
I think, there's things I like about Ladd. So I think it's like you think you got AJ Brown, big physical contested receiver, can play all over any formation, slot, out wide. The problem, I had both of those guys in a lot of different leagues last year. The problem, not problem, but the only downside, like, anytime they got within the 10 or 5, a lot of times it's either Barkley or Hurts, running it in. Ladd, undersized, but I watched a lot of Ladd McConkey play last year, and he's so shifty. He gets open. He can sit in the zones. And then even more than that is like watching him, like he knows how to not take big hits. Like, there's some receivers that know how to get down and not take those hits, some smaller receivers. So it's not like I have, any concerns about his frame or anything. I think, he's going to, if they get down, he's going to be heavily targeted. I mean, you look at that, I don't know if you've got it up, but if you look at that playoff game versus Houston last year and that wild card game, I mean, that was a monster game. That's what can show what his ceiling is when they get down in a game.
Yeah. I don't have it up on here. I mean,
it was a
regular season stats, but yeah, look, I mean, AJ Brown to me is such a strong receiver that like he can make those big catches, right? He's that big play guy. But to me, that offense is run first, right? With Saquon Barkley. Like, I mean, there was a lot of conversations if Jalen Hurts could even get him the ball. I mean, there was wasn't AJ Brown reading a book on the sideline?
Yeah, and he was
just kind
and
of
in the middle
out
of the season, he was griping about the passing game and Hurts and not getting the ball. But
yeah, and they made a conscious effort to prove everybody wrong about that, which they did. I mean, AJ Brown, I mean, he finished as wide receiver 12 on a per game basis, like. But something tells me McConkey is just a different kind of guy with this offense and the Chargers. And I really like what Devontae Smith was doing with the Eagles too. So I think I'm ready to take Ladd McConkey over AJ Brown. That's just something I'll be toying with for the rest of this offseason.
I think with McConkey, it just comes to passing volume. Like I'm just looking, the two games he got double-digit targets, he was a top 9. He finished inside the top 10 of those 2 weeks. So if a majority of more games, if he could get 10 or more targets, he's going to put up big-time stats.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of the season, Ladd was getting more targets, obviously, with the rookie coming in, building that rapport with the quarterback. And A.J. Brown missed a couple games early on in the season. I think he missed 3 games before the bye week. So, there's not much else to say other than I just have a feeling that I'm going to be taking Ladd McConkey over A.J. Brown. So, but understand either way. Marvin Harrison, I have a little bit higher than you. I got him at 13. You have him down at 19. I'm a believer in Marv. I think he's going to have a bounce back year this year. I know Marvin was a big letdown, right? He was being drafted in the first round last year as a rookie wide receiver. Yep. This year, he is not being drafted in the first round. He's going end of round 3. I've seen him drop to the early round 4. That's a great value for me to be taking Marvin Harrison. I think he makes steps as becoming that main guy for Kyler Murray. I know the Trey McBride conversation is there, right? The guy is a target hog. But to me, they want Marvin Harrison to be that for the team, right? They don't want to be targeting Trey McBride as much as they have been. They've been looking for a wide receiver to come in and fill the shoes there in that wide receiver room. And I think Marv, this is a year, man. Talk about wide receivers on their second season, right? Coming into their second year, they get a bump up. We see it time and time again in the NFL and in fantasy football. So Marv is someone I'm looking at. I'll be grabbing him in this pocket pretty much most of the time. I mean, Terry McLaurin, we'll talk about him in a little bit. Jackson Smith and Jigba. I just like the value you're getting in round 4. Not as much in round 3, but I'm okay at the end of round 3. Round 4, I'll take him all day.
Well, I mean, he did change his physique to look a lot more like I do right now. We saw the muscle he put on. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing. I don't know when the last time. I'm not sure if that helps him. One of the big negatives, like he had such a low contested catch rate last year, and maybe that's why he was. So he could be more physical and 50-50 balls. I don't know. Maybe it helps him out. I'm kind of like you. Like, I'm banking on the talent not to drop him too low, like that he's going to be there, that Arizona and that division is going to be behind enough in games that he's going to get plenty of targets, and maybe even more as people start paying more attention to Trey McBride after what he did last year. So, it's in the range of possibilities for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Harrison finished top 5 in the end zone targets and air yards, so there's something there. I'd be willing to take a shot on him this year. I have him ranked pretty aggressively high, but that just speaks to my confidence in Marvin Harrison this year. I'd be willing to give him another go at it, because last year the expectations are just too high. We can't put those expectations on rookies. I just, with wide receivers especially. We'll talk about rookie wide receivers this year and where we expect them to go. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at there. All right. I got Mike Evans at 15. You got him down at 21. You're an ageist and you're old as shit already, Shane. And it doesn't make sense why you're disrespecting the old guys, dude. Mike Evans, just a career 1,000-yard receiver. Everybody talks about it to an extent where you don't want to talk about it anymore. But they bring in Emeka Egbuka. Chris Godwin is healthy. Mike Evans just scores touchdowns, right? He is such a threat in the red zone. I love having Mike Evans as a wide receiver 2 on my team. I feel phenomenal as him as a wide receiver 2. Not as much as a wide receiver 1. I'd be fine with it. Not the way I want to structure my team in fantasy football, but I love Mike Evans this year. Why do you hate him?
What was last year? I think 11 years in a row where he's had 1,000 yards. I think is
maybe
what it
20. Is it 25? I'm not sure what it is.
I don't. Listen. If you watched our running back episode, I was consistent on the age drop off, and I feel like this is another one for me. Like, he's going to be 32 here in 1.5 months in August. I don't know how many top end production wide receivers we've seen in fantasy off the top of my head at age 32. I think it's probably a pretty short list. Also add in, they drafted a first round receiver. Godwin's coming back. He missed a majority of the year last year. He's back. He'll take a little bit of while to get going, but he's going to be back for the majority of the year. We can't forget about how great Jalen McMillan was in multiple games last year. For me, I still got him up. I think could be a number 2. There's just some guys probably that I'm going to be taking over him that I feel will have a little bit more higher upside. And you can see that in my rankings there. Some of the guys I think has got higher upside.
Yeah, I'd say Mike Evans has a safe floor, right? He's one of the safe picks, right? I mean, he hasn't finished lower than wide receiver 13 on a points per game basis in each of the last 4 years. Double-digit touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 years. I mean, the connection is there with Baker Mayfield. He looks for him a lot. The argument I do understand is Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin finished as wide receiver 2 on a points per game basis. Only played 7 games, but in those 7 games, he was elite. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's a real argument against Mike Evans. Is Chris Godwin fully healthy? What does he look like with the younger guys really taking a big step up? So I just like the safeness, that safe, secure pick. If you're taking a risky pick and a Christian McCaffrey and you want a little bit more stability in your wide receiver room, understandable going with Mike Evans. But I understand your hesitation as well.
Do you think the streak ends this year? I say it ends this year.
You're calling it to end this year. It came very close last year.
It did. They had to just really work to get it
forward. They almost forced it.
Yes.
Okay. They forced it. Didn't feel right. Felt like they were cherry picking a little bit there. I don't think it ends. Oh. I really don't. I mean, I know there's a lot of mouths to feed, but this Buccaneers team is going to be good this year. I think they win the division. I think they're going to win a ton of games and score a lot of points. Baker Mayfield, we saw how high he was ranked in our quarterback rankings. I mean, the guy's pretty close to a top 5 quarterback, right? I mean, he's a gunslinger, and that team has a very good vibe going into this year with all the weapons they have on the offense side of the ball. So I think Mike Evans is an intricate part of this offense, and I think he still hits that 1,000. I mean, death taxes and Mike Evans getting 1,000 yards. I'm not ready to call it quits on it. I mean, how old is Mike Evans? What's his age?
He's going to be 32 in August.
Mike Evans, 32 in August? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's running back age. You're dead at 32, right? Wide receivers, we've seen wide receivers go a little bit later in their careers than 32. So I'm not ready to call it quits on him yet. What about Tyreek Hill? Talk about ageism. You're in on Tyreek Hill. I know you might not have a lot to say about that because to me, there isn't much to say about it, but you got Tyreek Hill at 15. I'm a little bit down on 21. I mean, when this guy's healthy, he's the cheetah for a reason, right? I don't know what to predict about this Dolphins offense with Tua. Tua's healthy, Tyreek's healthy, Waddle's healthy. What's going on there?
I think Tyreek is the Christian McCaffrey of wide receivers this year. Because you could apply the same argument exactly. You could just copy paste. So everyone's like, well, if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy all year, you're getting a guy who's taken in the top 10 picks every year for the last 3 years.
But
same thing with Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek played every game last year.
They were taking him, but he missed, I think it was 6 or 7 games he played without Tua. So with the injury and
so you're talking okay.
So it's not quite apples to apples, but it's if he gets the scenario of injury-free Tua for every game, then you could almost apply the same thing. And I think I'm not off the top of my head, I think he's like 31 or going to be 31 this year. So he's not too far behind age-wise, but he seems like he hasn't lost his burst when we saw some of his big plays. I think, he played through a wrist injury a lot last year also. But I think it's the same argument. If you are in on Christian McCaffrey because you want to bank on that high explosive games and think, oh, this could be a year he plays 16 games with Tua and he stays injury free, then you're probably going to get a first round type of wide receiver, that you take later. If you're talking about the earliest I'm probably pulling on him is maybe into round 3. That round 3 range. I'm not going to probably pull him in round 2, but round 3, I'd probably take the gamble.
Yeah, he's going right in the middle of round 3.
Okay.
So, I'd be fine taking Tyreek Hill there. I feel like there's some value there.
Yeah,
because on the upside, you're getting Tyreek Hill's, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, I don't like to anticipate injury, right? I don't like the whole conversation about injury prone. Tua is in a category of his own with his health risks and the concussions that he's endured. So
yeah,
that's tough, but I don't know. Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round seems like a steal.
Yeah. And they don't, like, every year, despite Tua having injuries, they never invest in a great backup. Like, it's this year, it's Zach Wilson. It's nobody so it's not like you can bank on, if they've got somebody that could come in and just be a gunslinger like Jameis Winston, he could still have value.
Yeah. 3 through 7. Let's take a look right here because I haven't looked at this in a while, but weeks 3 through 7. Wide receiver 57, wide receiver 51, wide receiver 31, wide receiver 89. So,
yeah.
I understand what you're saying. It's a very risky pick, but the upside is there. Okay. Yeah. The upside is there. Just talking about ADP real quick in this pocket, we talked about this round 1, all of these receivers in round 1. I think they're all great picks.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done any mock drafts yet. We will be doing them very soon. I'm curious to see where in the draft I like, right? Because as of right now, after looking at the running backs and the wide receivers and ranking them out and statting them out and stuff like that, I'm fine drafting anywhere. Put me anywhere in the draft room, and I think I can draft a solid team. So I'm excited about that. But round 2, Brian Thomas, Drake London, AJ Ladd, T. Higgins. And then round 3, this is an interesting, I know we've been talking about it a little bit with Tyreek, Marvin Harrison. I want you to talk to me about Terry McLaurin, because I feel like if you're in round 3 and these names are here, you're going with Scary Terry.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Like last year, he finally broke out. The biggest thing against him had always been touchdowns. Like he just hadn't put them up. And so last year he finally hit that. He finally hit double-digit touchdowns. I think it was 13 touchdowns that he had.
13.
Yeah. If you look at, I want to say it was from weeks 2 or 3 through the end of the year. I think he was around 17 or 18 points, high target volume, high catches. I think, Jaden Daniels in year 2 is just even something to continue to get excited about him and their relationship and their connection is going to grow. I am not concerned about the Deebo Samuel impact on him fantasy wise. I think that's minimal. I think, that's going to be more of hey, if they get around, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they use him as a rusher a lot more instead of Robinson or Eckler when they get down the goal line. I don't think there's much of an impact as far as targets and catches for Terry. I think Terry is probably like one of the safest high floor guys you could get. That's even, if you wanted to go high upside with your wide receiver one, then you could bank on a safer, McLaurin, or you could, if you went for some reason running back. I think Terry would be an outstanding round 3 wide receiver one that's safe for you.
Terry McLaurin. Okay. It bothers me so much that I don't think there was a player other than James Conner that I talked about more last offseason.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin. I said he was going to get unlocked with Jaden Daniels, and he did. He didn't have his best yardage performance out of any season he's been, but 13 touchdowns.
13.
That's a massive bump up as opposed to his previous seasons. And I just moved him up. I don't know if you noticed as you were talking, I moved him up a few spots up to 18, and I want to put him higher. I just got to revisit that later on as the offseason goes. But I love Terry McLaurin, right? I don't know why you have him at 12 and I had him down at 22. So he's going up to 18 for me. I want to move him up higher. I love Terry McLaurin. I think you're right. I don't think Deebo Samuel really poses much of a threat to Terry McLaurin. He has a great connection. The deep ball, right? That deep ball that Jaden Daniels throws is such a good deep ball, and Terry comes down with it. We saw that time and time again, painfully against the Bears. That happened a few times, but what's not to like about Terry McLaurin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to have to revisit something I will be monitoring very closely for sure. Let's talk about Rashee Rice. I was just, looking through Twitter over the last couple of days, and Rashee Rice is a big talking point. I feel like the fantasy community is either all in on Rashee Rice or they are completely out on Rashee Rice. They're even calling Xavier Worthy the wide receiver one on the team. Where is your mind? Because I know I have him at 19, you have him at 20, so we're kind of in the same range here for Rashee Rice. What is your envision for Rashee Rice? Does he step into that wide receiver one role that we saw at the beginning of last year? Did Xavier Worthy do enough towards the end of the season last year, which he was the number one receiver on the team at the end of the season last year? So what's your gauge there?
Yeah, I always like each year when I do in my rankings with each position, everybody has, the my guys list. So what I have is the on the fence guys. And like Rashee Rice is probably right now one of my main on the fence guys. Like I keep going back and forth on what I think of him. Like I think early in the year when we did our early dynasty rankings, I think I had him and Worthy. I think I had Worthy actually one spot ahead of him. I was concerned about the injury, how he was going to come back, what he would look like. Through some of these mini camps, it looks like he's already back to like 100% from reports I've read, from mini camps and everything. Like there's been no restrictions. And so if that's the case, I look at like what he was doing before that injury when he was like at 17 or 18 PPR points, he had averaged in the first 3 weeks. Then look what he had done in his rookie year, where rookie wide receivers usually don't perform well in Andy Reid offenses, but he was almost 1,000-yard receiver, almost I think 80 catches. I think it was 7 or 8 touchdowns. Like rookie wide receivers don't do that often, so that spoke a lot. So I think if he stays in this range, I think he's a steal if he's 100%. Assuming the health of the leg is okay, I for sure think he is definitely the number one over Xavier Worthy.
I agree with you. I think he is the number one over Xavier Worthy. I think what we saw in the beginning of the season last year, 17 points, 18 points, 29 points, that's how they want to use Rashee Rice. He has a great connection with Patrick Mahomes. Xavier Worthy is a great piece for this offense, but I don't think he's nearly going to be the spot that Rashee Rice can fill on that team, if that makes sense at all. Yeah. Going in the end of round 3 is a great spot for me. I'd be willing to take Rashee Rice in the 3rd. I think we're going to see a lot of movement with Rashee Rice. I think he could creep up to the top of this tier right here as far as ADP goes in this round. Go to the top of the 3rd, kind of in this range with A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins, Rashee Rice. I could see him there as well. So I think we'll see a lot of movement with Rashee, but I'm in on him. I want Rashee Rice on my team this year. Are you comfortable having him as a wide receiver 1 on your team? If you go running back in the first 2 rounds, right? You're going wide receiver, and Terry McLaurin's gone because you have Terry McLaurin as wide receiver 12, and that would be cheating. Are you willing to take Rashee Rice over Harrison, Garrett Wilson,
probably.
Tyreek, and
I don't
JSN?
know about Garrett Wilson, but I think over Harrison, I think because he does have that high ceiling potential that he showed in the first 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be getting the ball on more intermediate routes, and which is great for PPR. As opposed to Worthy's going to be more, I think, some down the field stretches, gadget plays, stuff like that. So, as long as we get in through preseason and we see that there's no issues with the leg, then I think you're right. He'll probably see his ADP rise to up to early 3rd round, maybe even end of 2nd.
Yeah, that's where I think he's going to end up.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I'm talking my wide receiver 1 on the team, I think I'd rather have Rashee Rice over Garrett Wilson.
Yeah,
give me the Chiefs wide receiver 1 over the Jets wide receiver 1. I don't know. That's just me. Okay, what else we got here on this good old rankings list? We got a lot to talk about, these names, and we're cruising along here. Sorry for the long episodes, guys. We usually keep them to about 30 minutes. A lot of names to talk about here, a lot of stuff to talk about.
So. I mean, and I think most leagues, I mean, they're starting 3 wide receivers or 2 wide receivers in flex. So you got to go through a bunch of guys here.
Absolutely. This needs to be talked about. I enjoy hashing this out with you because it helps me out as well. So, okay, what else we got here? We talked about Rashee Rice, Terry McLaurin, Jameson Williams. You have him at 26. I'm at 25. Did you move Jameson Williams up?
No, that's about where I had him for now. I mean, you just talked about a bunch of hype. I'm seeing a bunch of Twitter hype on Jameson Williams. Like,
he is a hot talking point right now.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, a lot of assistant coaches are talking about a breakout year. I believe in the talent. For sure. My only slight concern, we talked a little bit about on the QB episodes, is the Lions. Is a more difficult schedule. You're seeing a ton more outside games as opposed to last year inside games, where both Goff and Williams, put up some of their bigger numbers. The only other concern would be like, okay, do we see, Laporta bounce back with a better reception year? St. Brown still, Gibbs receiving out of the backfield. I mean, that's the only concern. There's a bunch of hype on him. And then obviously, I don't think it affects St. Brown, but maybe you factor it in with a guy with Jameson Williams is like, okay, how much did Ben Johnson's creativity calling plays open up a lot of open plays for him, and it's going to be the same with the new offensive coordinator. That's another thing to factor in.
Yeah, I mean, he hit 1,000 yards last year, literally 1,001 yards. So he hit his 1,000-yard mark, 7 touchdowns. He ended up as a wide receiver 23 or 26 in a points per game basis in PPR leagues. I mean, I feel like this is adequately ranked on where he's going. I mean, to see him next to names like DK Metcalf and Devontae Smith was shocking to me when I first started looking and diving into fantasy football again this year for redraft. And I love it. I think he's such an exciting player, right? When you watch these Lions games, this guy is just a lightning bolt on the football field. And that's what we knew he was coming into the NFL. Unfortunately, he had the early struggles with, I forget what he actually was dealing with. Was it a ticket or was it what happened to Jameson Williams that rookie year?
I think it was something speeding related, or was it something? God, I'm trying to remember. Was it something like he was one that had bet on games or did something on games that was at the facility?
Wait, I'm not sure what it is. You're not sure what it is.
Allegedly. I always got to say allegedly.
He had a rocky start to his career. Okay, let's just say that. Rocky start to his career. I love to see him where he's at. I'd be fine with him in round 4. Let's see, as a wide receiver 2. Right. I mean, he's a kind of a a risky wide receiver 2 for me.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. I'd rather see him as a wide receiver 3, but in round 4, you're depending on how you draft your team, he might be a wide receiver 2 on your team.
Yeah, I think.
Would you rather have a DK? I mean, Tet McMillan's a rookie going in that 4th round as your wide receiver 2. Let's just speak on that real quick. If you took a running back and a tight end, right, in the first 2 rounds, you grab a wide receiver in round 3. You grab Terry McLaurin as your wide receiver 1, okay, and you're looking to get another wide receiver in round 4. Where are you looking at here?
The guy I'm going to look at, and I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to bring him up because there was, I wish I could remember who to credit it was some stats profile on Twitter, but the guy I would take over him, and I'm almost positive trying to remember, I've got him ranked ahead of him, but I think people are going to be sleeping on Courtland Sutton major this year. And Courtland Sutton is a guy I would take over in this scenario for sure. Like it was, I remember the stat that was referenced. I apologize for whoever did on there, not to give you credit, but it was from weeks 8 through 18 when, Bo Nix was really getting into his groove. He averaged 0.3 fantasy points less than Justin Jefferson over that game stretch. He was a target hog. I think it was averaging like 18 or 19 fantasy points over that. It's like Jaden Daniels and Washington. Bo Nix is only going to be better in year 2. Courtland Sutton is the clear-cut number 1 receiver in that wide receiver room. That's going to be. He had 130 something targets last year. He could easily reach that amount again.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought him up because I think he does. Deserve a conversation. Wide receiver 26 doesn't really do what he did justice for fantasy football terms. Like you're talking about weeks 8 through 13. Like he helped a lot of people get to the playoffs, right? I mean, you're talking wide receiver 6, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 2, like, and in the middle there, 26 and 24 and 32. Like Courtland Sutton is a great wide receiver 2 for your team this year. Yeah. And I think you're right there. You would rather have Courtland Sutton as a wide receiver 2 over DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, and Devontae Adams.
I don't know if I've got him over Adams, but the rest of them, I'm pretty sure I got him ranked over him.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he's a steal in round 5. Courtland Sutton.
That's round 5. If that stays, that is a really good value.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, if I can structure my team where I grab Courtland Sutton in round 5 and Bo Nix in round 7, I'm pretty happy about that.
There's no way like he should be that close to Zay Flowers this year. No way.
Are people what are people smoking with Zay Flowers?
I don't know.
I mean, ended up as what wide receiver? Where does he finish last year? 36, so not too far behind Courtland Sutton. But I mean, for Zay Flowers and Devontae Smith, like Devontae Smith, wide receiver 17 on a points per game basis. Like, I mean, come on, I'm taking Devontae Smith and Courtland Sutton. I'm taking Jalen Waddle. I don't know about Travis Hunter. I mean, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but George Pickens I'll take over Zay Flowers. Godwin I'll take over Zay Flowers. Juwan Jennings I'll take over Zay Flowers. I mean, where do I have Zay Flowers as I'm talking about this?
I mean, he's got to be like, for us, he has to be the most hated number 1 receiver on a team, probably.
I mean, wide receiver 26, I'm going to bump him down. I didn't realize I had him up that high, but I think I'm taking Godwin over Flowers, Pickens over Flowers. Tet McMillan has such a big upside as a rookie. Yeah. I'm taking him over Zay. Where do you have Zay? You're down at 36. That seems adequate. I'm smoking the fairy dust that everyone else is smoking to put Zay Flowers at 26. It's something I'm definitely going to have to revisit. But, yeah, that's anyway, back to what we were talking about. I got on a tangent there. Wide receiver 2 range. We talked about that with Courtland Sutton. Travis Hunter, let's just talk about him real quick, okay? I have him very low. I have him at 42. You have Travis Hunter at 27. Probably one of the biggest discrepancies of our ranking system here. I don't know what it is. I'm not buying the hype on Travis Hunter as far as him being a, kind of a stable piece for fantasy lineups as a wide receiver, right? I have a feeling they're going to be using him more as a defensive back. He's going to come into for packages with the wide receivers. I'm not convinced what his snap share is going to look like on the offensive side of the ball. Are you more confident in his snap share for offense, putting him at 27 ahead of Pickens and ahead of Tet McMillan? To me is that's craziness. But tell me why.
I think you just hit it right there. I think it is just a difference in strategic philosophy that you and I have. So
okay.
I am right now thinking on the strategy and philosophy of he plays more wide receiver than he does defensive back. And this is my own just personal opinion. Jacksonville and their coaching staff has not called me yet to get my opinion on it. But if I was on that coaching staff, Duval, I would want to try to maximize at all costs that huge investment that I maybe mistakenly made or maybe not mistakenly made in Trevor Lawrence. Now, if I just put $55 million a year in Trevor Lawrence, I need to do any and all things to make sure that was the right choice. I maximize that decision.
Good point. That's a good point.
And so if I'm thinking that way, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to play Travis Hunter more on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side. That's probably where I would go with in my thinking right now. We will see.
Well, Evan Ingram is no longer on the team. He's with the Broncos, which was a serious piece for that offense. You're making sense. Okay, you're making sense. You want your main goal, getting that head coaching job, is to make sure that Trevor Lawrence succeeds and it starts playing better than get that question mark away from his name for people. So I'm just not convinced. I got to see it. I'm not willing to take the risk on Travis Hunter where I don't know what his snap share is going to be like.
Yeah, because I think if he plays the snaps, like he is physically gifted and a route runner and yards after catch and everything you like to be really good.
Speaking of that, did you see the Twitter stuff during mini camp and during rookie camp of him running routes and on the field looking like he wasn't locked in? Did you see all those circulating videos? Because I did, and I watched them.
No, I didn't. I didn't catch that.
You didn't see those?
No,
I will be posting those on here on this episode.
That'll be one.
Shane, I'll send them to you. But just to speak on them real quick, there was a couple drills that he was running where you're watching Brian Thomas Jr. run the route, and then you're watching Travis Hunter run the route. And in the beginning of the camp and beginning of these videos, when they were circulating, Travis Hunter didn't look good. He didn't look good coming out of the breaks. He didn't look as crispy as you would want him to look with someone that won the Heisman and you bring into the team. So, but I will say as the camp progressed, videos got better, but you see on the sideline of them in between drills, Brian Thomas isn't doing anything. He's locked in. He's focused on football. Travis Hunter is just dancing, vibing, just having the time of his life being on the practice field. So, that's not something that dictates where I have him ranked. Okay. I'm not basing it off of his demeanor on the practice field during minicamp, but at the same time, it does say something about the player, Travis Hunter. So, they talked about him participating in drills. Like this is going to be unprecedented information and to watch him this season play both sides of the ball, right? Where does he mainly practice with? Where does he because installing packages and installing plays every week is hard enough for a wide receiver to focus on. Now you got to do the defense as well. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think I'm ready to take the risk on him in that range. I could be very wrong. This is one that I admit I could be completely wrong on. Travis Hunter is a generational talent. They drafted him for a reason, and you're right. Trevor Lawrence needs to perform well, and having Travis Hunter on the field is probably going to help that. What does that team look like? What's the wide receiver room? Because Gabe Davis is gone. Who do they have? I'm trying to pull up the information and it's not loading.
Yeah, you got Brian Thomas Jr., then you got Hunter, then you've got, I am blanking on the guy's name that they're number 3, not as strong wide receiver right now.
Oh, Parker Washington.
Parker Washington, yes.
Yeah, they got Diami Brown.
Yeah.
But
I think the key takeaway from when we get into the next episode position series, I think the key takeaway you're going to want to watch out for his catches, who would be the number 3 target guy, is Brenton Strange, tight end. I think that's the guy you're going to want to target later. And when we get a little teaser for our tight end episode,
I like that. I like that. I like where your head's at. But looking at the wide receiver room, I should be bumping Travis Hunter up, because if you're not having Travis Hunter out there as wide receiver 2, who is it? Joshua Cephas, Parker Washington, Trenton Irwin. I mean, you don't have many options there in the wide receiver room. So I'll be moving him up reluctantly. I'll be moving him up. But where is he being drafted here? Travis Hunter. I think I'd still rather have Pickens. I'd rather have Jalen Waddle. Flowers.
Nope.
No, I'm taking Travis Hunter over Zay Flowers. I'm not going to have Zay Flowers on any team.
We are not going to have Zay Flowers.
And then Godwin. I'm taking Godwin over Hunter. And then this is the range. So, I mean, it's like, what, in round 6? I'll take Travis Hunter in round 6. But, I mean, Jerry Jeudy looks like he could be really good this year. Who's throwing him the ball? I have no idea. Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is an interesting pick in the 6th round. You know what I mean? Like, Chris Olave is another one where I'm just not touching him this year. But, I mean, Chris Olave, Zay Flowers, I won't have them on my team. But I'm probably taking Hunter over – I don't know. What about Jordan Addison? What's your gauge on Jordan Addison? We didn't mention that we're going to be talking about him at all, but are you taking Jordan Addison in this range? Like, what's your gauge on Addison?
Maybe, I don't know. It goes back to like, okay, we're going to see as good production quarterback with McCarthy as we did Darnold slinging the ball around. Because I did remember, shout out, like anybody that's wanting to follow potential legal issues with players from a fantasy perspective and scope, follow Drew Davenport on Twitter. He is excellent at breaking down the legality of player issues going on. So he talked about Addison this past week. I was reading a bunch of threads he had on him. He's projecting maybe like a 2 or 3 game suspension for him based off of when the trial date is set for earlier. I think it's the 2nd week of July, which was earlier than what they were going to be expecting. So with that trial date, it does put in the possibility of a in-season suspension this year. Probably not more than 3 games, but if it is 3 games, which is what he's projecting, that's something to lower a little bit, because not only if it's 3 games missing, then he comes back and it maybe takes a couple of games to get ramped up. So now you're looking at maybe week 6 or something. I think it's just something to watch and factor into your rankings.
He's just someone I'll be struggling with this offseason as to where to draft him. But let's shift over to Juwan Jennings. I see right here this 49ers offense, right? Brandon Ayuk is. Did you see where Brandon Ayuk is going? Round 8.
I think he's not coming back until I think he's going to be on the PUP list. So I think you're looking after like week 6 for him to return.
Okay. That makes more sense. Ricky Pearsall is going in the 7th. Juwan Jennings is going in the 6th. I see a lot of people talking about Ricky Pearsall making the jump in his 2nd year as the wide receiver 1. I mean, where do you have them ranked with Ricky Pearsall?
Okay. I think I have Pearsall a couple spots higher, but
38 and 44.
Like Rashee Rice, I really struggle with these 2 guys because I like the upside of Pearsall. I like what he did the last 2 games. I think it was around like 20. I think he was a top 5 fantasy wide receiver the last 2 weeks. But man, Juwan Jennings has a connection with Brock Purdy, and he had some pretty big games. Like
he had the pretty big games. Try 12 targets, 11 receptions, only dropped 1, 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was week 3 against the Rams.
The Rams, that was the one I was thinking of. And then there was another game throughout the year. It was a big game. Like he had a 20. He had a 25 and a 28 point game also. So he's got that. I probably will end up flip flopping those. I think probably Jennings is the safer guy to go with based off of. And I mean, we just talked about there was 3 games at least that he was putting up wide receiver 1 production.
I mean, Ricky Pearsall ended the season really well.
He did end well.
Week 17 and week 18, 10 targets, 8 receptions, 8 targets, 6 receptions, caught a touchdown in both those games. He had one game with 141 yards. That was that big 28-point game. I mean, I could see Ricky Pearsall making that jump, but I'm not ready to take Pearsall over Jennings. I'd be fine having Ricky Pearsall on the bench. I mean, what round is it going in? What did I say? 7?
God, and it's easy to forget about. You're like, oh, Pearsall, kind of struggled. Like, I think we all forget about the guy was literally shot in his stomach.
Yeah, he was definitely shot in the stomach. I got to fix my camera. Jesus. Yes, he was shot in the stomach and he had to recover from that. That was crazy. That report was wild. So, yeah. I mean, Pearsall going in round 7, Juwan Jennings going around 6. I'm taking Juwan over Pearsall. I think Juwan's going to end up being the wide receiver 1 on the team. We saw the explosive plays. We saw the upside, the ceiling for Juwan Jennings on those games. So I think he is the right pick there. So are you out on Chris Olave with me?
Probably so. It's probably a guy I will lower than what I put him lower than what I've got him.
Where are you with Chris? 25.
Yeah, he's probably going to come down.
25. I'm at 35.
God, the talent is there. It's just like every year he's either getting hurt, or he's got a crappy quarterback situation,
which he does this year, right?
Yeah, I think we saw. Shaheed was out producing him at the beginning of last year.
He definitely was.
So I think it's time for me to just all right, I love the talent for, when he came out in this first, but I think over the last 2 years, enough is enough. So he's going to probably be into the 30s after this show.
Yeah. I mean, he dealt with concussions last season, right?
Yeah.
He 2 different concussions last year.
That's something to keep in mind also, man. That's 2 in 1 year. And if he gets a couple more this year, yeah, that's serious business.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is about. He just has a stink to his name this year, for me at least, with Chris Olave. So, all right, Jaden Reed, this Green Bay Packers wide receivers, right? Similar to the San Francisco, where you don't know what's going on here. Jaden Reed was a very popular name at the beginning of last year. You have Jaden Reed down at 50. I have him up at where did I just have him here? Where did he go? I lost him. 39. I'm guessing, is Jaden Reed the only Packer you have ranked in your top 60?
I think he is, yeah.
Matthew Golden at 60. What's going on with Christian Watson? Is he
he's recovering, still running. I saw some tape of him this past week where he's out doing some drills, but he doesn't look to be I bet he probably misses the first couple games, 2-3 games at least. Probably not, though, 100% when he comes back, coming off of that. It was a pretty devastating knee injury. So
torn ACL in week 18.
Yeah, that's a tough. He's probably going to be like Ayuk, where he starts on the PUP list when you look at the injury time frame for that. So
yeah, he's not being drafted. Wide receiver 125 on ADP, which is wild. But I mean, Jaden Reed. You got Dontavian Wicks. You got Matthew Golden.
Romeo
Dobbs. Dontavian Wicks is kind of like the underdog, the fan favorite. What is going on with my webcam? This thing is really bothering me.
You can't move an inch. You have to say
really bothering me.
Still, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix this. I need to find my old webcam. So that's there we go. We're back.
Don't
move. Anyway, Dontavian Wicks is a fan favorite, right? I mean, he's one of my favorite Packers wide receivers. I want him to make that jump and be the guy. He just didn't really show it. He had one game last year, week 4 against Minnesota, finished as wide receiver 3, 13 targets, 2 touchdowns. Like, you saw what he's capable of, but he just wasn't getting enough looks, wasn't playing enough snaps. So, I mean, what's your gauge? Is Jaden Reed going to step up? Is Matthew Golden, the rookie, going to come into a nice spot with this Packers offense, your top ranked Packers receiver is wide receiver 50.
Yeah, and it goes back to
that alone is shocking, right?
Yeah, it goes back to what we talked about in our QB episode. Like I'm not a big Jordan Love fan because it's just a low passing volume. Like he only went over 30 passing attempts last year, I think 3 times. Like they are become a run heavy offense. When they do throw the ball, even with Christian Watson out, they've got multiple targets. They've got multiple tight ends they can throw to. I don't have I want to say Reed was like around 70 targets last year. So that's not good that's not high target volume at all.
Mm-mm.
Now, all that said, he'll be the number 1 target, the number 1 catch guy for that team. So this year, if you're getting him in double digit rounds, like round 10 or 11, then that's probably good value as a wide receiver 4 maybe on your team.
I'm just going around 8. Top around 8.
All right, so it's a little higher than I thought. But I'd be fine with him probably as a wide receiver 3 or 4 based off of I still think he's the number 1 wide receiver on the team.
Yeah, I mean Matthew Golden is interesting. That rookie, he did some really impressive things with Texas last year. I think he has a potential to be really good in the NFL. Them going in the same round is interesting to me.
It is
right in the beginning and the end of that round. I just can't get a gauge on what this Packers offense for wide receivers are going to look like. I hope it's Dontavian Wicks. It's probably going to be Jaden Reed. They also have Mecole Hardman, who just keeps jumping team to team to team. So interesting nonetheless. But all right, let's talk about these rookies to wrap up this episode. We got Trey Harris. We got Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, Mika Egbuka. Golden is being drafted relatively high here. Where else are these rookies other than Ted McMillan, of course? Is that it? Ted McMillan in round Hunter. 4, Travis Hunter in round 5. Other than that, you have round 9 or round 8 and round 9 where these rookies start going off. Trey Harris, we saw a lot of good things about Kyle Williams in the New England offense. Jack Beck. What other ones do we have here? Pat Bryant for Denver. I see a lot of people talking about him. So what rookie wide receivers, what's your gauge on them this year?
I just don't see, unlike last year when we had multiple rookies that put up great numbers. Like I don't even know outside of Tet or Travis, that anybody's going to even match what Marvin Harrison did last year, which was 900 yards, 8 touchdowns, something like that. I just don't see a path for outside of those 2 guys that to have any great fantasy production. Tampa Bay is just so crowded a receiving room with Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, their tight end situation. Same thing in Chicago, where you've got 2 established guys already there, and DJ Moore in Rome. It's going to be hard target, and Chicago's got 2 pretty good tight ends, that they're going to be throwing to.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I don't see Burden a path there. It's hard for me. There's not a really strong path for Higgins in Houston because they're going to have Christian Kirk playing the slot. That's where he thrives. He can't play Christian Kirk anywhere place else besides the slot. So I'm not sure if he gets high target volume. It's hard for me to see any of these guys do much of anything fantasy wise.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few names that stick out to me. Egbuka, I love in Dynasty, of course. This isn't Dynasty, this is redraft. And I find it very difficult to draft Mika Egbuka in round 9 with the current landscape of this Tampa Bay offense. But Jaden Higgins is interesting, right? There's not much going on in Houston outside of Nico Collins. I feel like there's a serious path for Jaden Higgins to step up and do a great role. Trey Harris also, I like Trey Harris in San Diego, or not San Diego, on the Chargers in LA. I don't know why I say San Diego. It's been years now since they've been in LA, but Trey Harris has a path to me, right? I said Jaden Higgins. Luther Burden is someone that as much as I love the Bears wide receivers, he's just someone I don't think I'd be willing to jump on in the 10th. Later on, I'd be willing to take a shot on him, but Kyle Williams seems much more viable to me with that the New England landscape with Stephon Diggs. We didn't even talk about Diggs too much, but Kyle Williams has a serious path. Jack Beck, if that's even how you say his last name, I think he has a serious path. Like taking these guys in round 13 or 12 is much more appetizing than Mika Igbukka in round 9, Burden in round 10. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
So I do agree though. Outside of Ted McMillan and maybe Travis Hunter, we're not going to see explosive rookie wide receivers. Last year was an outlier. I mean, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey, we got spoiled last year with the rookie wide receivers.
Like I said, and even like everybody thought that was a disappointing year for Harrison, and he was
800 yards, 116 targets.
Yeah, I think 8 touchdowns. Like I just don't see any of those guys outside the top 2 that we talked about that even reaches his numbers.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison was a lot like Caleb Williams last year, right? You have this massive hype, this massive buildup, and then you're let down because of the hype. But if you take away that hype, it didn't have a bad rookie year.
No.
So that's definitely something I think is worth mentioning. So any sleepers, Shane? Quick mention, any sleepers here round 16, round 15, round 14, even 13 or 12, other than the ones we just talked about being rookies with high upside with Kyle Williams and Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins. What do you think here with any late stabs?
The only other guy I'm intrigued about, it's just going to depend on the quarterback situation. So if you tell me like Joe Flacco starting for the first, let's call it 8 games, I think people shouldn't forget about what Cedric Tillman did when he was healthy and playing. I know Judy was great last year. Cedric Tillman had a really good stretch of games before he got hurt. That he put up some good numbers. I think that's someone I'll probably if I know Flacco is going to be playing for a good chunk of the year, that's somebody I'll probably keep in mind as far as when I'm looking at that group. But this is probably why I preach also, like when you're doing your rankings, I really like putting them in tiers, because now you can see where you're going to get to a certain tier where it's like, oh, this is crap. Like, what the heck do I want to choose? So that may factor, like, okay, I might even want to get my wide receiver 4 by a certain tier drop,
Okay, so let's talk about that tier drop, because you have your tiers right here, right? You have that big pile of disgustingness in this bottom tier.
Yeah.
Where do you want your wide receiver 4? Where's your line?
So if I'm looking at this, so like I'm fine with everything going. Mooney, I'm fine with. I'm probably
Mooney,
anything.
Downs.
Yeah, everything
Shakir.
after probably below. When you're looking at probably Tillman and below, all that is not appealing to me.
As a wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Tillman, so Ayuk, obviously with his injury, Rashid Shaheed, that offense is just, I don't know what's going on there. Luther Burden, Trey Harris, I think it's TRE. There's no Y in the Trey, I believe. Anyway, that was a Coles thing. Don't know why I said that and why I did that, but Xavier Legette, Jalen McMillan, Jack Beck, and Kyle Williams, Matthew Golden. I think you're right. Cedric Tillman is an interesting candidate because, week 7 through 9, he was a top 12 receiver. Week 7, wide receiver 10, week 8, wide receiver 3, week 9, wide receiver 12. So that little stretch showed you what he was capable of. I don't know what's going on with that offense, though. Joe Flacco is someone that people want. Joe Flacco sounded like I saw a report that the team wants Kenny Pickett.
If it's Kenny Pickett,
the guy. So I don't know. I'm not taking Cedric Tillman as wide receiver 4 if Kenny Pickett's starting quarterback. So we'll see there. But Jaden Reed, like as a wide receiver 4, seems interesting to me. Pittman, Shakir, Downs, Mooney, Kirk, Jennings, Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is being slept on. Okay, I got Jacoby Myers at 33. You got him at 42. What he did last year was really good. So,
and think about how big of a quarterback upgrade it is. I mean, Geno Smith, whatever you want to say about him, he's a huge upgrade over AOC.
And his deep ball is accurate. So, There's not enough time to talk about all 60 guys. And do you want Jacoby Myers? I put a star by his name. Wanted to talk about him. Didn't talk about him. I talked about him a lot last year. He was one of my Coles like to call my best friend after sporadically or what's the word I'm looking for? Randomly drafted him in a draft where we weren't even talking about him. So someone I'm looking at this year, where is he being drafted? As I'm mentioning Jacoby Myers' name. Round 7.
Yeah.
I'm taking him for sure. But all right, Shane, did we not mention anything else? We got to come to a close on this episode. I feel like it's this is one of the longest ones in a while, but a lot of information, a lot of stuff we talked about. I feel like we talked about the top of the rankings. We talked about the bottom and sleepers, talked about some pockets. How about we just quickly wrap it up with a little draft strategy and how you want to structure your team with wide receivers? Are you looking to go, these top tier wide receivers in rounds 1, 2? Are you looking to leave with a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds?
I would. Yeah. There's no draft probably that I would go without one of the receiver in the top 2 rounds for sure. And even if I'm at the end of round 1, I may smash a Nico Collins Neighbors or Nakua Neighbors, something like that back to back, and then try to go for the running back 1 in round 3 even. So,
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good running backs in round 3 that we talked about that we're still going to be there. So I agree with you. I want one of these wide receivers in rounds 1 and 2. We'll see, right? We got a lot of mock draft season is approaching, so we're going to dive into some mocks after our tight end rep episode next. We'll do a quick episode for tight ends and then just start up the mocks. But I agree with you. I want one of these wide receivers if I don't get him in the first round, if I end up having a running back fall to me, I'm fine with one of these guys as my wide receiver 1, but I'm definitely looking to grab one of these guys as my wide receiver 1.
Yep.
What's your line for
I think I have a similar round. I think the last guy I would consider would be Wilson, but I would much rather it be that Thomas, London, Brown, McConkey, or Higgins.
So you're fine with McLaurin, Wilson.
If I had to,
as wide receiver 1.
Yeah, if I had gotten 2 great running backs that slid to me, if you looked at somehow you ended up, I don't know, with a Gibbs and Kyron Williams or something like that, then I could go. I'd be okay with one of those guys. But I'd rather have the tier above. So.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I'd be fine with that as well. Even Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, is going to have a monster year. I'd be fine with him as a wide receiver 1, McLaurin, Wilson, Tyreek Hill if you're feeling froggy.
Yeah.
But that's about it for wide receiver 1 range. I want one of those other guys. So, and then we talked about it already. You want your wide receiver 4 prior to what was the round here? Round 8, right? Your wide receiver 4, didn't we say that?
Yeah.
Wide receiver 4 by round 8, and then take a stab later on for wide receiver 5 and 6. So, all right, I've been talking a lot. This has been a long episode. I'm glad if anybody stuck around for the entire episode. Thank you. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I feel like we had a good conversation about these wide receivers. There's a lot of them. And there's, like we talked about in the very beginning, a lot of discrepancies. This list is going to be changing drastically as the weeks go on. So make sure you follow the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. Stay in tune with all of our ranking updates, all of our fun mock drafts we have scheduled. If you want to join some of our mock drafts in the future, hit us up on Twitter or send us an email or something. Yeah. Get in contact. Comment on this video on YouTube if you guys are interested in joining some of our mock drafts. We're going to set those up here in the next couple of weeks. So other than that, Shane, as always, it's a pleasure talking fantasy football with you. And what should everybody do?
Pitter patter, buckle up.
Pitter patter, buckle up.